All right, little different setup so he can hear. And let me get this a little bit like this. Looks like it's going to be today. I think the bowl is wearing out. You boys good? Yeah. Awesome. All right. Yesterday. Okay, here we go. Hold up. I need to airplane, I'll let you know, because it's up on my computer. Yesterday, we are on page 31. Let me get to an airplay button here. And wow, I mean, what a cliffhanger. We had to stop right before Lenny opened up a can of, you know what? Worms, yes. So, here's what happened. And I told you the other day that what we're dealing with is a book. It's a novella. It's a short novel. But the structure of Mice and Men is written as a 3-act play. Act 1 are chapters 1 and 2. Let's get to know people. Thank you, baby. Act 2, chapters 3, which we're about to end, and 4. We're going to present you with every single problem we can possibly think of. We're going to throw all kinds of problems at you. And then Act 3, which is going to be your chapters 5 and 6, we have to figure out how to solve our problems. Okay? So, we've been introduced to a few problems. Curly's wife is one. Defenseless little puppy's another. And now we have Curly.
And escalating quickly.
Yes. So, what Max pointed out yesterday is how, with the way that Lenny's brain works, he's really a gentle giant. However, he does have triggers. And violence can escalate quickly with a mind like this. He also, just in the way he does not understand the world, I would imagine in his head, do we want to guess that he might think he's about 7 or 8?
No, I think it's like 9 or 10.
Yeah.
I say 4 or 9.
But
5-year-old.
my man does not know and understand the strength that he has and the power that he has. And that's what we're fixing to see here. Curly was looking for a fight because he was looking for his wife. Or because he was looking for his wife, he was looking for a fight. Okay? So, my man Curly tried to pick a fight with Slim, our Christ character, and that didn't work out very well for him. So, here's where we are. On page 31, and let me go up. I'm just going to do that Lenny looked helplessly at George paragraph again. Lenny looked helplessly at George, and then he got up and tried to retreat. Curly was balanced and poised. He slashed at Lenny with his left and then smashed down his nose with his right. Lenny gave a cry of terror. Blood welled from his nose. "George," he cried, "make him let me alone, George." He backed until he was against the wall, and Curly followed, slugging him in the face. Lenny's hands remained at his sides. He was too frightened to defend himself. All right, that sentence right there, don't you feel like super sorry for him? Okay.
It's like beating on a puppy.
Thank you.
It's wrong.
Or The Outsiders. He looked like he was, what did they say? Remember Ponyboy's friends in The Outsiders?
Yeah.
Remember
He
Johnny?
got beat up by socks.
Right,
Socks.
Socius. He looked like, oh, I'm going to get it wrong.
He looked like he was dead.
No, stop. He looked like a puppy that was beaten up too many times. Is that about? Right, right. So George was on his feet yelling, Get him, Lenny. Don't let him do it. Okay, now I'm going to have some highlighting here. And do you remember, let's go back to chapter 1. Boys over there, I'd listen. This is term paper stuff. Okay, Coffee? Go back to chapter 1. Do you remember all of the animal symbolism and imagery that we used when we talked about Lenny drinking the water? Okay, so pay attention to the animal imagery that we are going to use right now to describe I'm sorry, I almost said George. Lenny, as he does what he's about to do. Lenny covered his face with his huge paws. And I may as well highlight this one too. Good, my highlighter's on. Bleated like a sheep with terror. He cried, "Make him stop, George." Then Curly attacked his stomach and cut off his wind. Slim jumped up. "The dirty little rat," he cried. "I'll get him myself." George put out his hand and grabbed Slim. "Wait a minute," he shouted. He cupped his hands around his mouth and yelled, "Get him, Lenny." Lenny took his hands away from his face and looked about for George, and Curly slashed at his eyes. The big face was covered with blood. George yelled again, "I said get him." Curly's fist was swinging when Lenny reached for it. The next minute, Curly was flopping like a fish on a line, and his closed fist was lost in Lenny's big hand. George ran down the room. "Let go of him, Lenny, let go." But Lenny watched in terror the flopping little man whom he held. Blood ran down Lenny's face. One of his eyes was cut and closed. George, there's my cursor, sorry, slapped him in the face again and again, and still Lenny held on to the closed fist, just like he did with that girl in weed. He just wanted to touch that red dress, do you recall? Curly was white and shrunken by now, and his struggling had become weak. He stood crying, his fist lost in, and look here, it's highlighted, Lenny's paw. We're using that animal imagery again on him. Yeah. George shouted over and over, "Let go his hand, Lenny, let go. Slim, come help me while the guy got any hand left." Suddenly, Lenny let go his hold. He crouched, cowering against the wall. I guess I could have, although humans can crouch, but that's very animalistic there as well. "You told me to, George," he said miserably. Curly sat down on the floor looking in wonder at his crushed hand. Slim and Carlson bent over him. Then Slim straightened up and regarded Lenny with horror. "We got to get him to a doctor," he said. "Looks to me like every bone in his hand is bust." "I didn't wanna," Lenny cried. "I didn't want to hurt him." Slim said, "Carlson, you get the candy wagon hitched up. We'll take him into Soledad and get him fixed up." Carlson hurried out. Slim turned to the whimpering Lenny. "Now, our Christ figure, yes? Steinbeck wants you to trust what he says." "It ain't your fault," he said. "This punk sure had it coming to him. But geez, he ain't hardly got no hand left." Slim hurried out and in a moment returned with a tin cup of water. He held it to Curly's lips. George said, "Slim, will we get canned now? We need the steak. Will Curly's old man can us now?" Slim smiled wryly. He knelt down beside Curly. "You got your senses in hand enough to listen?" he asked. Curly nodded. "Well, then listen." Slim went on. "I think your hands got caught in a machine. If you don't tell nobody what happened, we ain't going to. But you just tell and try to get this guy canned, and we'll tell everybody. And then will you get the laugh?" "I won't tell," said Curly. He avoided looking at Lenny. Here's the deal. Slim is threatening Curly with humiliation. Now, he did look, Slim did, in horror at what Lenny did. But he did, as our Christ figure, say, "You're fine. You did crush his hands. You went a little too far, buddy." But this punk had it coming to him. Okay? So, buggy wheels sounded outside because it's still the 1930s and there are still buggies. Slim helped Curly up. "Come on now, Carlson's going to take you to a doctor." He helped Curly out the door. The sound of wheels drew away, and in a moment, Slim came back into the bunkhouse. He looked at Lenny, still crouched fearfully against the wall. "Let's see your hands," he asked. Lenny stuck out his hands. "Gosh almighty, I hate to have you mad at me," Slim said. George broke in. "Lenny was just scared," he explained. "He didn't know what to do. I told you nobody ought to never fight him." "No, I guess it was Candy I told." Candy nodded solemnly. "That's just what you done," he said. "Right this morning when Curly first lit into your friend, you says, 'He better not fool with Lenny if he knows what's good for him.' That's just what you says to me." George turned to Lenny. "It ain't your fault," he said. "You don't need to be scared no more. You done just what I told you to. Maybe you better go in the washroom and clean up your face. You look like hell." Lenny smiled with his bruised mouth. "Oh, when y'all see this, it's gonna just break your heart." "I didn't want no trouble," he said. He walked toward the door, but just before he came to it, he turned back. Y'all, you ready for this? "George, what you want?" "I can still tend the rabbits, George." "Sure, you ain't done nothing wrong." "I didn't mean no harm, George." "Well, get the hell out and wash your face." Almost there. Oh, wait, actually we are. Boom, chapter 4. All right, so before we have a Sunday school lesson and go to church, I need actually about half of you to right now take a moment and finish up your chapter 3 questions, please. Your chapter 3 questions. Now, fair warning for some of you, Joseph Trimbeth, who only do a few of them. Finish, because before I give you 100 classwork, I do go through and make sure you've answered.
Max told me that it was homework, so I
No, I never give homework. What have we learned? Never trust a Garrus when they're playing with your mind.
Jaco either. Jaden's
Jaco as well. Do I ever give homework this year? No. We're trying to keep homework light. All right, a few minutes with that. I'm going to talk to Roniel for a little bit. He's my virtual. That day that my phone overheated because I put it by the Apple TV. I just want to go back through while y'all are finishing that up and make sure he understands that Slim is the baby Jesus. So hold up. And let me get to where I think I ended up with my Roniel. Yes, ma'am. Yes. Wow, chapter 3 was quite long. Oh, here, sorry, I'll put him over here. Hey, Bailey, did you leave our door kind of propped?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you can still go the back way. When you come back out, just don't shut the door all the way so we can get back in. Yeah, we're much quieter going in the back way. Okay, you're finishing up chapter 3, and you're not going to interrupt me while I talk to Marano. Thank you very much.
Yes.